I see it like sort of like if I'm thinking of an about page, I think of it like sort of in the middle of the story because people are always going to ask you about that. And this should be included so that there's not confusion about it.
You're listening to Thrive by Design, business, marketing, and lifestyle strategies for your jewelry brand to flourish and thrive. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast, episode number 77. And today you are in for a big treat because we're doing something fun. Hey, before I jump in, this is Tracy Matthews. I'm your host today. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer over at Flourish and Thrive Academy. And I really love helping designers pull out the story of their brand and of their sort of evolution and origin story so that they can really write amazing about pages and be able to talk about their brands so much easier. So I met today's guest at a MJSA event that was at the JA show a couple of months ago. I believe it was maybe in the summer. Maybe that's like almost half a year ago, I guess. Anyway, I was so fascinated by them because they're this mother-daughter team. They have a ton of energy, which you will soon see. And they were just hilarious. They were super funny. But one of the things they said to me, Tracy, we have a really difficult time talking about our work. And I said, well, why? Tell me a little bit about it. But they had a hard time sort of communicating what it is exactly that they did, but also infusing that with their story and how their whole brand evolved. So today, I'm excited to be interviewing and talking to Elizabeth Reed and Allison Morgan of Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about their story soon. And the whole point of this is to teach you how to transform your story into an engaging about page. So as you may or may not have heard, the about page on your website is one of the most highly visited pages on your website. And it could oftentimes be the difference between converting a customer into a buyer versus getting those people to bounce and leave your site. So this is really important for you to know because I think people really underutilize that page and they're not thinking it completely through. And the about page transformation is something that we do teach in our Laying the Foundation course over here at Flourish and Thrive Academy. Laying the Foundation Live is closing for enrollment very, very soon. I think it's closing this week on Thursday. So you definitely want to make sure that you check it out if you're interested in transforming your brand this year. If you're struggling to get enough sales, if you're struggling with time management, if you're struggling to communicate your story, if you're struggling with your branding or tying all the concepts together, if you're especially struggling developing collections, I highly recommend that you check it out. It's going to change everything for you so that you're able to make more, sell more, and have a lot more time for the other things that you love besides just designing and making jewelry. So you can check that out over at flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF. I will also have the links in the show notes. You can check that out over at flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 77. All right, so today's podcast is a really, really fun episode. So I'm doing something different. This is like a little bit more of a workshop style. When I met Liz and Allison, I know that they were really struggling to communicate their story, and they have such a great story, as you're going to hear in this interview that we did. But I wanted to be able to pull it out with them a little bit more and make it a little bit more playful and engaging so that when people were eventually coming to the about page on their site, that they knew exactly what they did, but a little bit more about the flavor behind the brand. Because to me, when I met them, there is so much flavor behind their brand and their personality. So you're going to see sort of the transformation of what I decided to do and how I decided to write their about page. And all these about pages are always a work in progress. We want to make sure that we have everything in there, but we just did a real quick workshop and kind of switch some things around to make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more storytelling. So before I give you the before and after, I wanted to dive into the interview with Elizabeth and Allison so you can learn a little bit more about Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry and learn a little bit more about them as a brand and sort of what they stand for, which is super duper fun and cool, as you're going to see in a moment. Welcome to the show today. I'm really excited because I'm doing something that I haven't done before, and I'm doing a live makeover with a designer team. So I'm really excited to have the mother-daughter duo of Charlotte Allison Jewelry, Allison Morgan and Elizabeth Reed, also known as Liz Reed. So I'm really excited to have you guys here today. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this with me.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here. Yes, thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome. So Allison is the designer and creative mastermind behind the brand, and Liz focuses a little bit more on sales and marketing of the business. They have concepted a really unique proprietary process for creating an interchangeable jewelry line. So I met them back, I think it was in the summer at a WJA mentoring event at the JA show. That's where we met, right? I think it was at the trade show. Yeah. And we're talking. I love what they were doing. But when I was talking with Allison and Liz, I realized that they were having a hard time describing what they do. And I think that this is the common struggle amongst a lot of designers who are creating something or creating anything, but especially if it's something a little bit different. They don't know how to talk about their work, and they don't know how to really, they're not really fully talking about their complete story, which I think after talking with Allison and Liz for a little while, I thought they had a really interesting story that needed to get pulled out. So I decided to have the duo on the show today to do something that we've never done and to do this a little bit differently. So we're going to see how it goes and do a brand story makeover with them. So first of all, I want to thank you again for being here because I know that this is like an unusual request, but an exciting one. I'm excited to see what comes out of this today.
We are too.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. So I know a little bit about you, but our listeners don't. So why don't you guys start and tell me a little bit about your journey and, you know, how Charlotte Allison Jewelry kind of came about?
Well, I think it starts with me. I started in the jewelry business about 20 years ago, and I had a custom design shop and traveled around the world to find my merchandise, which was pretty unusual coming from the South. And I saw a lot of different things, and I bought a ring in the Greek Isles that flipped. And you may have seen one of these in, someplace. At any rate, I wore this every day. And people would come to my shop and they'd say, "Oh, I like your ring." And then we'd design rings for them. I had a woman whose husband gave her a lot of precious and semi-precious stones, but unmounted. And she said, "I want you to make me a ring with an interchangeable centerpiece so I can use these stones." And I thought, gosh, I don't know how to do that. And then I realized that the ring that I wore had the potential for replacing the centerpiece. One side was a signet and the other side was an intaglio. And that's how this all came about, because we are an interchanging fine jewelry line.
Okay, cool. So basically, just to make it clear, you have a bunch of sort of holders for these centerpieces, right? And you can take the piece out of the center of a ring, flip it over, or interchange it with a completely different component.
That's correct. And when the centerpieces are not in your ring, you can also wear them as a pendant. So they're highly versatile and dual functioning. But it's also challenging if I'm wearing the ring and I can't demo the ring for someone to really understand unless I use just the right terminology so that they can grasp it kind of quickly.
Okay, cool. So I have to, can I be honest with you?
Sure.
I think the way you describe it is not really, it's a little like, Liz, you said this earlier, but it's a little boring. Like, how can we make this a little bit more exciting? Interchangeable jewelry is really cool, but I feel like there's like some bigger hook there. Like if we could come up with something. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your company name, because you get questions about that a lot.
Yeah, we do get questions about it quite a bit because our name is Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry, and my mother's name is Allison. People naturally assume that I'm going to be a Charlotte. And so it's very hard also because my full name is Elizabeth Allison. It's a lot of very traditional names. So it gets confusing very quickly, which is a lot of the reason why I like to go by Liz, because it immediately takes me out of some of that confusion. But in telling our story, it's hard to know where to insert the part where we describe our company name. Charlotte Allison is a fifth generation name in our family. It's a great aunt, a grandmother, my mother, a cousin, and my daughter. So it's very significant to us. And we decided on that name because originally I have two younger sisters. And when we encouraged my mom to come out of retirement and to pursue this dream, my sisters at that time were also very involved. And that has since changed, and it may change again, and I hope it does, that they'll be involved again. But we wanted a name that was very universal within our family and significant to all of us. And my mom actually did not want to use her name. She was really against it. We actually we did a lot of branding with another name entirely. And we came back and we said, no, this is what it's got to be. And so we love it, but we just don't know at what point in our story we explain how it originated.
Because it's part of us.
Yeah, I think it's a great part of your story. And I think I see it like sort of like if I'm thinking of an about page, I think of it like sort of in the middle of the story, because people are always going to ask you about that. And this should be included so that there's not confusion about it. So about pages are a little bit different than professional bios. So this would be like something for your website, but then you can also create the professional bio after it. So like you're like an about page, like a properly written about page would first and foremost connect with the customer first. So like your ideal client, whatever her name is, you can think about her when you're writing it to her. And the new wave of doing this is writing it in the first person. Now you guys can decide if you want to go first or third person over time, but the new wave of writing about pages in this time and space is really writing it in the first person.
I like that much
so that you're actually having a conversation with the audience, and it's not just like we are Liz and Allison and we have this jewelry brand, blah 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 blah, and her influences, and it makes it less. It's not as personal. So maybe they automatically think Liz is Charlotte or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, this is a great conversation starter. Oh no, this is a family name. We chose this name because runs fifth generation in our family, and we wanted something that was going to really represent the brand and our values, as a Southern business and all these things. So tell me a little bit more about what some of the core values that you've built your business on.
Well, I would definitely say, in my opinion, one of the core values that really works for us, but also is a challenge at times, is, as I mentioned before, Mom and I are very yin and yang. We have different perspectives, and we both respect those perspectives immensely, but they sometimes cause us to bump heads and not see eye to eye. And that's as far as like not only running a business, but in design, because initially, I came in to help my mom launch this product, and then she said, you know what, you should start drawing as well. Let's do this together, get more involved. And I did not have any jewelry background whatsoever. I was all sales and marketing. I was a finance major. And so it was, drawing things that maybe weren't really possible with jewelry. And Mom would say, oh, you have to try it this way or that. But it's been one of those things that we feel like could be lightning in a bottle for us, is that we come from somewhat of opposite viewpoints, and that can be very synergy driven when it's working. Yeah. So I would say that would be one of my top things about our core values.
So synergy,
Mom. Yeah.
I would say that I would have to agree with Elizabeth on that, because I find that the strength of our designs is really a collaboration.
Okay.
I don't get to do what I want to do, and she doesn't get to do what she wants to do. And I think the result is better than either individual efforts.
Who gets the final say?
Well, it depends on what the topic is. So we very carefully outlined who gets to get the final say. For instance, my mom is my boss, so that makes things a little tiny bit complicated. Because she is the boss, but she has decided from a design and brand aesthetic point of view that at the end of the day, I'll get the final say on those things. Now, if she really felt strongly about it, my opinion would probably conform closer to her point of view before I had my final say on something. But generally, it kind of depends on what the topic is. But when it comes to our brand and our aesthetic, she gives me a lot of leeway with that.
No, I tell her, just tell me what to do, because I don't have a clue. Elizabeth is extremely market savvy, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for her opinion, and I don't have one.
It's so fun working with your mom, because she'll say really nice things about you.
You guys are so sweet. That's one thing about like Southern, like the Southern vibe that I get is like, even though you're like, oh, we're yin and yang and we disagree all the time, you guys are still so sweet. I'm like, there's like, you should see my family.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it depends on the day. Yesterday was a little different.
You guys are so funny.
Sorts.
You guys are hilarious. So I asked you about core values. What I got was sort of like this yin and yang synergy. What are some of the other core values that the company stands for? Like if I'm thinking of core values that my business stands for, it's like integrity, excellent customer service, like those types of things. Are there any other things that you really are building your business around?
Well, I really want to speak to that because I grew up, the very first job I ever had was behind the counter. Actually, it was selling magazines, so I could go and pay every week on a garnet ring. And that was back in the day, and I just fell in love with the whole thing. But I really, really, really had a hard time because it was not an expensive ring, but it was expensive for me. And I always thought, I want jewelry. I want to have a lot of jewelry. And that became a lifelong passion, was to find a way to offer jewelry that was not as expensive but was beautiful. And that was just why I went to the Orient to buy inventory, because I was able to put out a lower price point than American goods. And it's very important to me to offer excellent value as well as beautiful design to the marketplace.
That is attainable.
What's attainable?
Excellent value. And beautiful and attainable design. Beautiful, like attainable.
And that's what I want to do. I mean, that to me is something that it should be something, our design should be something you can use every day. But at the same time, you can have a dozen different rings in appearance and yet only pay for a small portion when you change the appearance of the ring. Mm-hmm. And I consider this to be a terrific value for anyone who owns this jewelry. You can also make a pendant, like Elizabeth said. Mm-hmm. It's dual function, and I think it's a novel concept. It's even patented.
Okay, cool. That's more about the proprietary process, but I did get a core value out of this, that you want to create something that is like your core value is to deliver excellent value in a beautiful, attainable design. But something else came out of this. This is really interesting for your story, is that you sold magazines in order to buy a garnet ring.
I did.
That has to be in your story, because that's pretty cool. I love that. Those are the things that make a story interesting, by the way. You know, those little details of like something random. You know what I mean? Like that.
I engaged an overseas manufacturer to develop this in the year 2000. I'd done business with them for 10 years, and I had great faith in them. Regrettably, it was such an intricate design that when the line was produced and sent to me to distribute to the retailers who bought it, it didn't work. Not one single centerpiece fit one single ring. And it was a disaster. But even though it took a long time to recover from that, and I stepped away from this because I didn't know how to fix it for a while, I just knew that this was something that needed to come to market. And I kept talking about it, and Elizabeth just kept saying, Mom, stop talking, go do it. And, a number of years later, here we are. And she's helping me do it because the market has changed so much in the way you retail and reach the public. And I just want to say, even in the face of huge disaster, if you believe in what you're doing, never stop. I'm 65, and I'm going at it as harder than ever.
You are going at it hard, girl. So here's how I would position that story, is that, I'm so passionate about this idea. In fact, I tested it the first time in 2000 and I failed miserably. And, but good ideas only come, once in a while. And I really believed in what I had to offer. So I stuck with it and have focused on bringing to market this beautiful patented design that, with blah, 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 with the interchangeable jewelry or something. Like, that's not the exact words, but you want to so when I'm talking about I had a business failure too. When I'm talking about my business failure, I talk about how that brought me to the other side. And I think that's the piece that you need to focus on. Not so much the failure piece. Yeah, you can mention it, but I wouldn't highlight that so much in your story as much as that even when things didn't work out, you knew this was a good idea. And you are a go-getter, and you're someone who, when you believe in something or you have an idea in your head, that you're just going to make it happen, which is, I believe, is true just knowing you the very little that I do. And then you start to weave it into like the happy stories, or like the results, or the things that people really love about the jewelry brand. Does that make sense?
It does. A deep sense of duty almost to pursue this, because I think that if you are devoted to an idea, you can't live with yourself. You just feel like you're being lazy, or sorry if you don't keep trying.
I love this. And I love that after all this time, even when, in some people's minds, like you're at the age that someone should retire. I mean, I'm like you, I probably will never retire, just like want to keep working or whatever. But that you're so persistent to keep this going. And I think that's really amazing that,
actually, Tracy, I did retire for 10 years.
You're like, I retired, but now I'm back.
I did. Elizabeth kept saying, I just kept talking about it. She said, go do it. So here we are.
I love it. Okay. Are there any other core values that you can think of that you kind of are building your company on?
I mean, definitely integrity. I think that there's so much great jewelry available. You can look on Instagram, you can look anywhere and see really beautiful design. I think it's a real challenge to try to be unique and make things Charlotte Allison rather than just copying or using what's already out there. And I would say that obviously we all find inspiration in different places, but some of those places end up being the same for certain designers, and I get that. But I think at the end of the day, integrity for us and really trying to find a way to make things have a Charlotte Allison look is very important. I think that coming from a background where I don't know really much about jewelry, and Mom's background where she actually took quite a bit of time off before she came back into this. So we're looking at it from a very out of the box perspective.
Okay.
Has been helpful.
Okay, cool. I love that. So integrity. I also wrote down unique design, but that might sort of tie into this excellent value thing. An excellent value, beautiful, unique design. Okay, cool. So anything else that you can think of that is a core value that you sort of run your business on?
Well, I don't think this is a value, but I think it's an integral part of what we do. And that is, we want to make part of our brand fun and enjoyment.
That's a value. Fun is one of the core values of my business.
When we pull out our ring and centerpieces and watch women put on one, change it, put on another, they put them on the counter, and it's like children with candy.
So I have, you want to make this a fun experience for your customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's okay, cool. That's a core value. So what are some of the points of distinction that make Charlotte Allison different?
Number one, it's fine jewelry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And there are fine jewelry lines that allow you to change things in and out. We will be the first of its kind in that our jewelry functions a very specific way. When we got into this again, and I started working for my mom, the first thing I did was I spent a lot of time researching other interchangeable jewelry lines. And you find at all different price points. So you find very cheap jewelry, you find some fine jewelry, you find some that is, an international or European brand. And so there are some things that are out there. And there are some things that are interchanging that are maybe not rings, other pieces of jewelry, etc. So we knew that the idea of interchanging wasn't new, but we knew that it kind of had somewhat of a, I don't want to say unpopular, but not a very exciting connotation behind it. We wanted to change. So that was an issue for us.
I would say we want to elevate the concept.
Okay, that's a good way to put it, elevate the concept. That's something that should be highlighted, that term right there, elevate the concept, I think is really good. It's almost like, and sorry, Liz, don't lose your thought, but like you wanted to, you love the idea of interchangeable jewelry, but you wanted to elevate the concept of what the perception of interchangeable jewelry was.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. Okay, cool. Continue. You're about to say something else.
Well, yeah, we researched it quite a bit, and we saw that there was a lot of really interesting pieces out there that did different things, but nothing that operated the way that our piece did, the way my mom designed it. And so we wanted to take it a step further. So after a lot of time in development and field testing, we came up with a way to add the dual functioning aspect of our centerpieces in that they would be worn in your ring. But we didn't want them to sit in your jewelry box when you were wearing, say, one centerpiece, another one would have to sit. So that's when we came up with the idea of making them pendants. So there's a few different ways in which our jewelry functions differently than anything else on the market. And that happens to be not only is it interchanging, but it's dual functioning, and that these pieces you're purchasing, they just do a lot more.
So the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because this is something that I think people get caught up in, and this is like, I think, a good segue here, get caught up in the features, like that patent and that technology is a feature. Let's talk about the benefits of why someone would want to buy a piece of this jewelry or a couple pieces of the interchangeable jewelry. So how is it going to make their lives easier? What's the hook there? Like, what's in it for the person wearing it?
Well, we designed our pieces with today's woman in mind. It's great. My mom is 65, I'm 38. We have different roles that we play in our lives every day. And that may be anything from sitting at a boardroom table to having lunch with friends, to going to a charity meeting, to going to be with small children in and out of car seats, or a nice dinner, and then obviously work. So we design with that in mind. Okay, so what is the woman who wears our pieces, what is she dealing with in her day? So we want to give her things that are beneficial to her, and that she can wear them in so many different settings, highly versatile, easy to change in and out, that she can really personalize to her style by choosing certain centerpieces. Our ring frames, which is obviously the actual ring itself, we designed to be very traditional in style so that it would kind of work with whatever outfit you had on or whatever event you were going to. And then you could dress it up if you needed something very spectacular for evening wear, or you could put in a monogram if you wanted something very simple. So we tried to really, span through the spectrum, if you will, of needs that our customer would have in her lifestyle.
Tracy, you can wear a monogram piece to lunch with the girls, and in your wallet, you would have a pave diamond piece that you can pop in case you don't have time to go home and you're going to cocktails straight from work. It's something that makes our life easier and makes every one of us more attractive.
Before we sign off today, I want to hear a little bit more about like some successes that you've had in business or over the span of your career, because these are important things that we want to highlight in our story. Do you have any like awards that you've won or any accolades, or like what things are in your professional history are things that you think are important to highlight?
Well, I would say from being in the jewelry industry, Mom and I have been working on this for 3.5 years. And keep in mind that we haven't even launched our line yet. So we have been able to enter competitions. We did the WJA Dazzle Diva competition when we tied for first with our octagon ring, which was really exciting, just because it made us feel like we're on the right path and we're making something that people really like. And then also we were in the top 10 for the Centurion Emerging Designer last year, which we thought was great because we were still, in development, phase and process. So
that's awesome.
Now that we are, through all of that.
Have we more than two things?
I don't know. So there have been a few successes along the way, but we're really just getting started.
But Tracy, we've only entered 2 things and we've placed in both of them. I think that's
amazing.
Impressive. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else in your history that you want to highlight that you think is important to share? Like something that's fun for me is that 2 of the American Idol men who won, this is when years and years ago when I had my men's jewelry line, won the competition wearing my necklaces. So I think that's cool.
That's so cool.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's other things, that might be in that you're not thinking about, like even from your previous history, because these are important things that we'd want to highlight.
Well, actually, we never had another brand. I just had a custom jewelry shop.
Oh, the custom jewelry shop. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I want to thank you both for being here today. What I'd like to do is I'm going to give us both some homework, which I'll share. And then I'd like to meet again and have you back on the show for part 2, if that works for you. I'm excited for you guys. I think this is really great. And thank you so much for being here today. You guys have awesome energy.
Thank you so much, Tracy. So much.
All right, everyone, stay tuned for the next story. And if you're struggling with developing your brand story, I would love for you to sort of listen to this podcast again and walk through some of the things that I asked Allison and Liz during this interview. So I think it's really, really helpful to investigate what it is that at the core is, the heart of your brand. And that really helps you communicate your story a little bit better. All right, you guys, take care until next time.
All right, thanks, Tracy.
Okay, so what I'd like to do next, wasn't that a fun interview? I think that they are just a hoot and a blast. They're hilarious. I want to sort of do a before and after of what they had sent me before. So to start, their bio was just like 2 short paragraphs, meet the designers. Allison Morgan began her career 20 years ago after studying with GIA and owning a custom jewelry design shop. She quickly learned that her clientele wanted more from their fine jewelry. Allison developed and patented a concept allowing her ring designs an interchanging mechanism, which will be the first of its kind. After an enthusiastic introduction, I think there's a misspelling there, to friends and colleagues, she had decided to launch Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry. Elizabeth began her career in sales and marketing. She grew up watching her mother support their family as a custom jewelry designer. When the time was right to share the interchanging concept, Allison asked Elizabeth to partner with her. And here's the second piece. This is a little bit more about the jewelry. Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry is founded on the idea that you should be able to wear your fine jewelry the way you choose, day to night, work to play, whether you want to sparkle or something simple to express your style. You have the choice. First, choose your ring style from our carefully designed and highly versatile selection. Next, choose from our beautifully crafted centerpieces, which fit securely inside your ring. Our concepts allow you to open a precisely crafted door, only accessible when your ring is off. By opening the small catch on the door, you can change out the center of your ring as often as you like, for any outfit or for any occasion. When your centerpieces are not being worn in your ring, use our special threading bar to chain your centerpiece into a gorgeous pendant, the perfect layering piece with other centerpieces or pendants that you have in your collection. It's the perfect way to transform your look with pieces that you love. So they're using perfect and pendant and all these words a lot, and they're repeating it. Not that I'm like perfect with grammar or anything, far from it. But that's just a little bit about their story. So I want to sort of share with you how we transform this. Now, probably what I would do, I would still probably want to work on this a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, I wanted to just get something to them. And probably what I would add is a little bit more of Allison's professional background in the fact that she went to GIA, etc., and maybe a little bit more about the jewelry concept. But these things can also be pulled out at the bottom of your About page into a professional bio that is more condensed and concise so that it doesn't sort of drag down the energy of your About page. So the most important thing that you do with an About page is to hook the reader. You want to make them know right away when they're landing on your site or your About page what's in it for them and why is this important. So I started with an interesting opener. Fine jewelry is meant to be worn, not just sitting in your jewelry box. We make it easy for you to change your look without breaking your budget. Hi there, thanks for stopping by. We are Allison Morgan and Elizabeth Reed, the mother-daughter team behind the brand Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry. I'm Liz Reed, and people always ask me how we work together, considering Allison has been the boss of me for nearly my whole life. It's a challenge, but one of the most rewarding challenges I've had the pleasure of facing. So let's start with some backstory. First things first, our name. We get a lot of questions about it. The name has been in our family for over 5 generations. Can you believe it? While neither of us are named Charlotte Allison, many women in our family have held one or both of these names. My sisters and I were highly supportive when my mother came out of retirement to develop this new concept for the jewelry industry. Even though the family was very involved, she was hesitant to use her name. And after going through the entire branding process with a different name, she kept coming back to the family name and launched Charlotte Allison Refined Jewelry. As her daughter, I wouldn't dream of replacing that connection for something more obvious or trendy. It's universally significant within our family. Beautiful, functional jewelry designed with your lifestyle in mind. We get it. You constantly play different roles in your life, and the last thing on your mind is whether or not your jewelry is too fancy for your business lunch or too dressed down for an evening out. You love jewelry, you love fine jewelry, but understand that you might not get enough use out of accessory pieces to justify the cost. Jewelry should be functional and is something that you can wear every day for any occasion. Whether it's sitting in a boardroom, taking children out of their car seats, or having dinner with friends, you only need a few center stones to complete any look. Traditionally mounted in a ring or a dual functioning centerpieces can also be worn as a pendant so they never have to sit in your jewelry box collecting dust. Fun story, my mom Allison sold magazines in high school just to save up enough money to buy her first gemstone ring, a beautiful garnet. Those high school desires haven't faded, which is why we're dedicated to elevating the concept of interchangeable jewelry to provide designs that are an excellent value without sacrificing your beauty. You might be wondering why we patented our designs. Obviously, we're not the first to invent multi-use jewelry. Our mechanical patent protects the integrity of how each of the pieces fit together and comes apart. We went through so many prototypes. It got a little bit ridiculous, but we had to get it right. There's nothing worse than a loose stone or a cheap clasp. All the work and research that went into this design deserved to be protected. The design functions so well that we started being recognized at events, even in our development process. So we knew getting proprietary rights to our design couldn't hurt. After waiting 6 years, it finally came through. The mother-daughter bond. It's true. I don't have a background in design. I left corporate America behind because I saw this amazing opportunity to support my mom, use my marketing skills, and build a business where we were both passionate about. The great thing that we didn't expect about this is our fresh perspective on the industry, especially in a time where it's easy to be subconsciously influenced by other designs that you see on Instagram or Pinterest. We love that our roots point us in a genuine Charlotte Allison direction. It started with helping Allison launch the business, but we decided it was a great opportunity to combine our yin and yang personalities. When we are synergized, it's amazing the things that we come up with. Our opinions on design and business clash, but eventually it's the collaboration that strengthens us. Neither of us has full control over the designs, but what we produce is better than we imagined on our own. And then here, I would probably insert something about their family and left that open so that they can put that in there. And then the next line is, say goodbye to just being practical or beautiful. You deserve both. You're gonna love making these pieces your own. Click here to be the first to know when our designs are available online, or you can choose another type of call to action here. So some ideas that I came up with were shop the entire collection now, or go here to get the process started. So you can, at the end of every about page, you wanna be really clear about adding something at the end that tells people what to do. And then if you're a little bit more advanced and ninja about it, you can also weave it into the story with like subtle calls to action that link to different areas on your site so they can actually buy. And then at the bottom of it, they can also include professional bios that are separate or something fun and kitschy, or even a signature from themselves, like XO, Liz and Allison, or something like that, or Allison and Liz, whichever way they like to put it. So I just thought it was a fun little way to do a makeover, to get like a little bit deeper into the brand, to understand what they're really about. So I want to thank you so much for listening today. And if you are interested in having a makeover like this for your about page and reinventing your brand for this new year, I highly recommend that you check out Laying the Foundation. We're going to walk you through the process of setting a really strong foundation, building collections that actually sell, that are shared all the time. We're gonna walk you through our concept of the sharing economy and teach you how to build a referral cycle on autopilot, and then we're gonna teach you how to brand and market yourself like a boss. So I hope you'll join us. The students who go through this program have had such amazing results. They're all selling more. They're all so much more confident. They're all really stepping up as amazing designers who have brands to truly be reckoned with. So thanks so much for listening today. If you want to check out Laying the Foundation, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF, or you can check it out over on the show notes. That's flourishthriveacademy.com, episode 77. flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 77. Thank you so much for listening today, and I wish you the best day ever and the best year ever.